Okay, this is going to be a real-time video on how I make my own belts for the Harbor Freight 1" by 30" belt sander, and what I use, and I'm going to do this in real time so you can see how long it takes. These belts hold up fine. I've sharpened things from katanas with them, the kitchen knives, you name it. They work good, and they hold up, so I think it's worth it in my opinion, especially if you have the sandpaper and the stuff laying around. So I'm going to set this up over here so you can watch me how I cut it. Be right back. A couple of things you'll need: a nice straight edge. Mine happens to be the perfect width as the wheels on the belt sander, so it works good. Some sandpaper. I like to layer it up. This is 1000 grit I'm going to use. Just lay it on a block of wood or something nice and flat. Take the edge, line it right up perfect. Press down on it with a good amount of force. Give it a cut. I use 4 pieces of sandpaper. This way I have enough to do more than one belt. Now we're going to go over to my little workstation. Now, as you notice, what I did is I took a piece of this is the grit, the belt that came with the machine. I cut it in half and used some double-sided tape and stuck it to this piece of plastic. This way I would know exactly how long my belt would have to be to match theirs to a T. So what I do is I take, let me try to set up the camera here so you can see what I'm doing. I use packing tape from the post office. It's actually strapping tape, it's called, and it's $4.29. This stuff seems to work really good. It's got good adhesive on it. Works better than the clear stuff. I have some of that and I've tried it from them too. What I usually do is I use something round like this, and I'll take, I'm going to try to set this camera so you can see it. Okay, you should be able to see it. I'll take the packing tape and stick it to the edge of this. Pull a piece out. Trim it about 6 inches long. Take my razor blade, make sure it's nice and clean. Attempt to cut it pretty close to the middle. Just bring it down towards your hand, watch your fingers. Then I pull it into 2 strips and I separate it like that. Okay, now for joining the pieces, what I like to do is take a piece about 3 or 4 inches long. I cut that. I do this at all the joints. Hold down on a nice flat surface, or fairly flat. Try to line up the factory edge perfectly with the factory edge of the sandpaper. Now when you stick this together, the tape is going to be white, as you can see, but when you press it against the paper, the more you press, the clearer the tape becomes, because the adhesive gets right into the back of that grit. And what I like to do is I take the next piece, lay it down, I drag it across the top until it lines up right on the money. You gotta make sure this is square. This is the important part. Once you get it square, give it a little press. Then you can flip it and really press that tape into the paper. It's going to give you a nice strong joint where the paper won't want to fly up because of tension going around the wheels. Do the same thing to the next one. Press it really good. You're going to wind up going over this anyway down the road. And then we're going to attach the third piece. The third piece is going to get cut to the right size of the belt. Got lined up nice. Give it a press along the edge. Flip it, and then I like to work away from the joint. You'll know when you've got enough pressure on this tape because it's just going to turn clear, and that adhesive is really going to bond good. So there we have a belt which is going to be too long. These belts, if you make them 30 and a quarter, that's like perfect length. Or I like to just lay it on here. Line up the edge, then I press here. And what I do is, instead of trying to cut it straight with a razor blade or something like that, I just fold it over and I leave it about 1/8 of an inch long. Fold it right on top of itself, nice and even. Give that a pinch. Clean your razor blade or scissors, whatever you're using. Scissors come in real handy for cutting that strapping tape. It's better than a razor blade. Give that a snip. And then we have our little scrap piece. So what I do at this point is I don't join the ends yet. I will take these pieces of tape that I've already cut, and I'll start usually in the middle. What I do is I take my hands and I'll pull the tape like this. I'll pull the sandpaper tight, and I overlap the centerpiece where it makes the joint. If the joint's here and the tape ends here, I come to the middle with this piece, and the next piece is going to overlap that. So we get a nice strong joint right there. Now what I found from doing this is that this adhesive works great with paper that's up to 2500 grit. So you can make a 2500 grit belt beautifully. Anything over that, I have some 6000, some 8000 grit paper. It won't do it. It just doesn't. The paper is made differently. It doesn't have this, like, you know, normal paper backing to it. So we're going to press that in. Take another piece. It doesn't matter if the tape comes all the way to the edge or not. If it's a little bit in, it's okay. If it's a little bit over, you trim it after. Make sure you press it. Work all that air out of there. So running out of tape. And again, I wanted to do this kind of in real time, that way you could see how long it really takes to do it. You know, I don't want to say, oh, it takes you, 5 minutes to make it, when you're out here for 20 minutes slaving away. It takes a few minutes to make one, but it's worth it because it holds up. I didn't really think it was going to, but if you're going to make your own belts with the sandpaper, this is a wet, dry automotive sandpaper. It works great. Now I don't oil this when I do the metal, because the oil, if the oil gets underneath the edge of the paper, that's when it wants to peel off. This doesn't want to peel off at all. This tape really bonds to the paper well. I can't complain about that at all. I think it was a good find, and it works better than I've tried a few different kind of tapes. Tried duct tape, no good. I've tried aluminum foil tape. Now that's sticky. but it's weak. It doesn't have good tension strength. You can break it. I think it'd be really strong, but it's really not that good for this application. Now you see I got a little piece that comes over the edge. That's fine. It's not a big deal. You can trim that with a razor blade or whatnot. So now I'm going to bond the ends of it. We'll scrap that piece. No good. Actually, I can salvage some of it. Scissors work much better for cutting this tape. I just left them in the house because my wife was using them. She gets pissed off when I use the scissors out in the garage on my projects. Maybe if I sharpen them up for her, she won't care so much. So trim that up. Now when I join the ends, I don't use a real long piece, a couple inches, that's all you need. And then we're going to overlap it. So I'm going to stick this baby on here. And then hold the tape down. I don't know, can you see that? Can you see that? Okay. What I do is I hold it like this. I'm going to try to get an angle here, but you really can't see. I pull the tape tight with the corner of my finger, and then I press this right. I drag it along the edge until it hits the very edge, and I try to press it right in there. This way there's no gap in the sandpaper. I'm going to work the other side, press it nice. I'm going to flip the belt inside out. Just like that. And we've got one more piece to go over, which is right there. That's our final gap. Which I just happen to have a piece for, so. I think the most important thing is that you make sure you press that air out, really get that adhesive to bond to what it's pressed against. It makes a huge difference. I just made a belt and I was sanding up some kitchen knives and it works fantastic, but you really need to make sure that that adhesive is bonded well. So I go along the whole belt, check everything, look for any, white sections, see anything that's white. Press it out until it bonds. Some people might say, oh, why don't you just order belts? Well, belts are tricky to find for this this machine. The ones I'm looking for, I'm after a 1,000 grit belt. I want 1,500. If I had a 2x72 inch belt sander, which I'm going to make one, I could get the belt I'm really after. They have belts that go up to 4,500 grit. That's perfect for what I want. I'm going to leave that right on there. So what we do is we flip the belt inside out now. We're going to go put it on the machine and I'm going to show you how it works.